It was a typical Sunday morning when the weight of regret settled upon Peter like a heavy shroud. The soft rays of the sun peeked through the blinds, casting warm patterns on the hardwood floor. But for Peter, there was no warmth in this morning. Only the cold realization of what he had lost. He sat on the chair, staring blankly at the untouched cup of coffee in front of him. The ticking of the old clock on the wall seemed louder today, each second echoing the emptiness of the house. This was the first Sunday without Anna. Peter was a man of habit. He liked things a certain way, and Anna had always accommodated his quirks with a smile. But there was one habit, one vice, that had slowly eroded their happiness until it was too late. It started innocently enough, years ago. A few drinks after work with colleagues to unwind from the stress of the day. But as the years passed, those few drinks turned into a nightly routine. Peter found solace in the numbness that alcohol brought, a temporary escape from the pressures of life. Anna had tried to talk to him about it, of course. She had begged, pleaded, and even threatened to leave. But each time, Peter had promised to change. And for a while, he would. He'd cut back, be more present, more attentive. But the lure of the bottle was strong, and Peter found himself slipping back into old patterns time and time again. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday evening. Peter had promised to be home early for their anniversary dinner, a promise he had made with all the sincerity he could muster. But as the clock struck 7, then 8, then 9, Anna's disappointment turned into anger. When Peter stumbled through the door at 10, reeking of alcohol and excuses, he found Anna sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes red-rimmed and her voice steady with resolve. "I can't do this anymore, Peter," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I love you, but I can't watch you destroy yourself like this." Peter tried to protest, to explain, to apologize. But Anna had made up her mind. She packed a bag that night and left, that tore through Peter's heart like a knife. Now, sitting in the empty kitchen, Peter replayed that moment over and over in his mind. He had lost the love of his life because of his weakness, his inability to conquer his demons. With a heavy sigh, he pushed himself away from the table and stood up. The house felt too big, too quiet without Anna's presence. He walked through the familiar rooms, each one filled with memories of happier times. In their bedroom, he fell into his memory of his wife and him having fun on the bed. He began to smile, thinking it was real. Anna's smile was radiant, her eyes filled with love and hope for the future. Peter traced the outline of her face with a trembling finger, his eyes brimming with tears. "I'm sorry, Anna," he whispered to the empty room. "I'm so sorry." The house felt suffocating now, a constant reminder of what he had lost. Without a second thought, Peter grabbed his car keys and left, the weight of his regret heavy in his chest. He drove aimlessly, the roads twisting and turning as his mind whirled with thoughts of what could have been. The sun was beginning to set by the time he found himself at their favorite spot, a secluded beach where they had spent countless weekends watching the waves. The salty air filled his lungs as he walked along the shoreline, the sound of the crashing waves a soothing balm to his troubled soul. He sank down onto the sand, tears mingling with the grains as he whispered words of regret and love into the wind. Hours passed, the sky darkening into night as Peter sat there, lost in his thoughts. Finally, with a heavy heart, he stood up and made his way back to the car. As he drove home in the quiet of the night, Peter made a vow to himself. He would conquer his demons, for Anna. He would seek help, join a support group, do whatever it took to become the man she had once loved. The house was dark when he arrived, the emptiness more palpable than ever. But for the first time in a long time, Peter felt a glimmer of hope stirring within him. He turned on the lights, the soft glow chasing away the shadows of the past. And as he settled down at the kitchen table, He made a promise to Anna, wherever she was. "I will change, Anna," he whispered into the silence. "I will become the man you deserve." With that, Peter poured the untouched cup of coffee down the sink and reached for a glass of water instead. It was a small step, but it was a start. And as the first light of dawn peeked through the windows, Peter felt a flicker of hope in his heart. He had lost his good wife because of his bad habit, but he was determined to make things right. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but for Anna, he was willing to try. And as he drifted off to sleep, the weight of regret began to lift, replaced by a newfound determination to change. For Peter knew that true love was worth fighting for, even if it meant fighting against himself. And with Anna's love as his guiding light, he was ready to face the future, one day at a time. As the sun rose on a new day, Peter closed his eyes and whispered a promise into the dawn. "I will change, Anna," he vowed. "I will make things right." And with that, he took his first steps towards redemption, his heart filled with hope and love for the woman he had lost but never forgotten. He visited the cafes where they used to linger over cups of coffee asking people, the parks where they walked hand in hand, and the bookstores where they had spent hours browsing through novels. But Anna was nowhere to be found. With each passing day, Peter's determination only grew stronger. He plastered the city with posters bearing Anna's photo, her bright smile a stark contrast to the ache in his heart. He spoke to anyone who would listen, describing Anna in vivid detail, hoping that someone, somewhere, had seen her. As the days turned into weeks, Peter threw himself into the mission of finding Anna. It became his sole purpose, his beacon of hope in the darkness of his regret. He scoured every corner of the city, retracing their favorite spots, hoping to find a clue, a hint, anything that could lead him to her. The nights were the hardest. Alone in their once shared bed, Peter would lie awake, his mind filled with memories of Anna. He would close his eyes and picture her face, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, the warmth of her touch against his skin. That night he got a text from Anna saying, "I heard you were looking for me." As soon as he saw it, he smiled. They both scheduled an appointment to meet up and have a conversation. They met at familiar restaurant they used to hang out and held a meaningful and sincere conversation about the new man Peter has become. He apologized and Anna was happy he is a changed man. Their love blossomed and it was happily ever after.